So picture this. A completely ordinary college student gets a notification on their phone.
Right, just a normal day.
Exactly. An inbound transfer for, let's say, $3,000 just hits their checking account out of nowhere. And then maybe 3 minutes later, they forward $2,900 to an international cryptocurrency exchange.
Yep.
And they keep $100 as a, quote-unquote processing fee for this remote job they just landed on social media. I mean, in the time it takes to brew a cup of coffee, that money has completely vanished across borders. Untraceable.
It is incredibly fast.
Have you ever stopped to consider how massive global criminal syndicates actually move billions of dollars in stolen funds? Because, they aren't using offshore shell companies or guys in trench coats carrying briefcases full of cash anymore.
No, not at all.
They use the checking account of the person standing right next to you in line at the grocery store.
It fundamentally changes how you view financial crime, doesn't it? Because we have this Hollywood image of money laundering, right? But the modern reality is decentralized, it's digital, and honestly, it's terrifyingly mundane.
Yeah, mundane is the perfect word for it.
The everyday retail bank accounts of ordinary people, they are the critical infrastructure keeping global cybercrime afloat right now.
And that is exactly our mission for this deep dive. We are unpacking a really highly detailed foundational document today. It's titled The Mechanics and Mitigation of Money Mule Schemes.
It's a great source.
It really is. And we want to look under the hood of these networks. We're not just looking at, what a money mule is, but how these schemes function as the structural backbone of illicit finance. And importantly, why institutions can't just flip a switch and shut them all down.
Well, to understand the sheer scale of this, you really have to look at how the higher levels of law enforcement are treating it today.
Yeah.
Because agencies like Europol and the FBI, they do not view money muling as like a minor secondary offense.
Right. It's not just a side hustle.
Exactly. They classify it as a direct frontline form of money laundering. It's the crucial enabler in the whole ecosystem. Think about the mechanics of a cybercrime. If a syndicate hacks a corporation or defrauds an elderly person out of their life savings.
Which happens constantly.
Well, the criminals have a glaring problem. They have the stolen money, but they absolutely cannot wire it directly into their own personal bank accounts.
Oh, because that would just create a neon sign pointing law enforcement right to their front door.
Exactly. It would be an immediate dead end for them.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because if this is the core infrastructure, we really have to talk about the human element. Like, who are the people actually holding these accounts?
Right.
Because the sources make it very clear that if you were picturing a hardened criminal accomplice, you are going to misidentify the threat almost every single time.
Oh, you will miss it completely. The official guidance actually breaks this down into 3 distinct categories of mules. You have complicit, witting, and unwitting mules.
Okay, so break those down for us.
So the complicit mule is the closest thing to that stereotype you mentioned. That is someone who is fully aware they are laundering money for a criminal enterprise.
Like they're in on it.
Yes. They do it deliberately for a cut of the profits. They are a professional part of the network. But, and this is the crazy part, the vast majority of this activity actually falls into the other 2 categories.
Wait, really? The majority aren't complicit?
No, they aren't. So witting mules, the second category, are people who might suspect something is, financially or legally questionable.
But they do it anyway.
Yeah, they deliberately ignore the massive red flags because they are just desperate for the cash. And then you have the third group, the unwitting mules.
These are the ones that really shocked me in the reading.
It's tragic, honestly. These are individuals who have absolutely no idea they are participating in a crime. They genuinely believe they are performing a legitimate service, or maybe they think they're just helping a friend.
Yeah, the recruitment tactics Europol highlights in the document, they are almost entirely psychological. Like they completely prey on trust and desperation.
They really do.
You mentioned the unwitting mules. A huge vector for this is fake job offers, right? A syndicate will set up a highly professional-looking website, conduct fake interviews over text or email.
Very official looking.
And they hire someone to be a, quote, payment processing agent. But they also use romance scams, which I think is perhaps the most insidious method.
Oh, it's devastating. The patience of these networks is staggering. The criminals will invest 6, maybe 8 months building a fake romantic relationship online with a lonely individual.
6 to 8 months.
Yeah, they manufacture a deep emotional connection solely to eventually say, I am in an emergency overseas. I need a client to send money to your account. Can you just forward it to me?
Wow.
And they are highly strategic about their demographic targeting, too. The official guidance notes a heavy focus on young people, university students, newly arrived migrants, and really anyone experiencing acute financial stress.
Which makes sense, logically. It's brutal, but effective.
Very effective. A college student struggling to pay tuition is far more susceptible to an easy money pitch on social media. Furthermore, these demographics often lack the deep financial literacy required to understand the consequences.
The legal consequence, right?
Exactly. The devastating legal consequences of letting a third party route funds through an account registered in their own name. They also specifically target victims of coercion or grooming, layering financial abuse right on top of emotional or physical abuse.
It's like, I was trying to think of an analogy for this. Think of an unwitting mule, like a rideshare driver.
Okay, I like that.
Right. You are just driving your car, working the late shift to make a few extra bucks to pay your utility bill. You pick up a passenger, they throw a couple of heavy duffel bags in your trunk, and you drive them across town, dropping them off at a warehouse.
You're just doing your job.
Exactly. You have absolutely no idea
Yeah.
that the passenger just robbed a jewelry store
Yeah.
and the stolen diamonds are sitting in your trunk. But from the outside, to a detective who is tracking the jewelry thief's movements, you look exactly like the getaway driver. It is your car, your license plate, your route.
That's a really good point.
But from your perspective, you are just an independent contractor doing a job. You are entirely blind to the predicate crime.
And that blindness is exactly why the regulatory response has had to evolve so dramatically recently. If you look at the UK Home Office's Money Mule Action Plan, there is a massive paradigm shift in how they mandate banks to handle this.
How so?
Well, money muling is no longer just framed as a criminal threat to the financial system. It is now classified as a public protection issue.
Which puts the banks in an incredibly difficult position, I'd imagine.
Oh, it creates a tremendous balancing act. It means that when a fraud department actually detects a mule account, they cannot simply treat the customer like a criminal, close the account, and walk away.
Right, because what if they're a victim?
Exactly. They have to balance hard disruption with safeguarding. If the account holder is actually a vulnerable migrant who has been exploited or, a victim of a sophisticated grooming operation, suddenly terminating their only access to the financial system could push them into severe poverty.
Or even put them in physical danger from the syndicates.
Yes. So it requires the bank to conduct enhanced customer engagement and vulnerability assessments before they act.
Which takes time. And time is the one thing these institutions absolutely do not have.
That is the core of the problem.
Right. Because we know who these mules are now, and we know the psychological levers used to recruit them, but the actual mechanics of how the money moves is where the scale of the problem really becomes clear.
It is all about velocity.
Yeah.
The defining operational characteristic of a money mule scheme is the staggering speed of the transactions. According to data published by UK Finance, less than 15% of funds linked to money mules remain in an account for more than 24 hours.
Wait, less than 15%?
Yeah. 85% of the time, the stolen money is just gone before the day is over.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. And honestly, I have to push back a little on the expectations we are placing on these fraud departments.
Fair enough. Go ahead.
In modern banking, we have real-time payment environments, right? Money clears in seconds. So if the account holder looks like a completely normal retail customer, and the bank only has literally a few seconds to process a transaction,
Right.
how on earth is an algorithm or a compliance officer supposed to know if an inbound transfer of $500 is a money laundering conduit or just a student paying their roommate for a share of the rent?
Looking at it transaction by transaction, it is virtually impossible.
Right.
A $500 transfer looks identical to any other $500 transfer. This is why the industry has had to pivot toward identifying networked criminal orchestration.
Networked criminal orchestration. What does that mean in practice?
It means institutions cannot just look at the dollar amount. They have to analyze the entire behavioral footprint of the account. Even if the individual account seems perfectly normal, the pattern of transactions betrays the underlying crime.
Okay, I'm following.
They have to monitor for the overlapping patterns of authorized push payment scams, account takeovers, and synthetic identity abuse.
Wait, before we go further, let's make sure we are crystal clear on those terms because they are crucial to understanding the mechanics here. Walk us through those three concepts.
Of course. So an authorized push payment scam, or an APP scam, is when a criminal tricks a victim into willingly sending money to an account controlled by the scammer.
Like someone pretending to be the IRS on the phone.
Exactly. Or pretending to be the victim's bank. The victim actually authorizes the payment, but it is under false pretenses. Then you have an account takeover, which is much more brute force.
That's the hacking one, right?
Yes. That is when a hacker steals your login credentials, logs into your actual bank account, and just drains it without your knowledge.
And what about synthetic identity abuse?
That is the most complex of the three, by far. Instead of stealing an entire identity, criminals take a real piece of information like, say, a child's social security number, and they combine it with a fake name, fake address, and fake date of birth to create a Frankenstein identity.
Oh, wow. That is terrifying.
It is. They use this synthetic, made-up person to apply for credit cards and bank accounts. They might even build up the credit history for years.
Wait, years? They wait that long?
Oh, yeah, it's a long con. They build it up for years before finally maxing out all the lines of credit and just vanishing. And the Mule accounts serve as the collection buckets for the proceeds from all three of these totally different crimes.
So if a bank is just looking for, like, a fraudulent login, they will completely miss the authorized push payment scam because the real victim actually logged in and sent the money.
Precisely. That is why the focus has to be on the network orchestration I mentioned.
Got it.
The bank might see a normal-looking student account suddenly receive deposits from 3 entirely unrelated individuals at 3 different banks across the country. And then, within maybe 4 minutes of those deposits clearing, the entire balance is forwarded to a high-risk cryptocurrency exchange.
Which is obviously not how a student pays rent.
Exactly. That is the behavioral footprint of a mule.
Right?
The sheer speed of the routing, combined with the total lack of relationship between the sender and receiver, that becomes the red flag.
Which leads right into a massive control challenge that was highlighted by the Financial Conduct Authority and the National Fraud Database in our sources.
Yes, the life cycle issue.
Right, because for a long time, the defense strategy for banks was heavily focused on the front door, onboarding.
Right.
The idea was, if we have rigorous identity checks when an account is opened, we keep the criminals out. But the sources show that strategy is fundamentally flawed because it totally ignores the reality of mature existing accounts.
It is a critical vulnerability. The FCA data shows that mature existing accounts are frequently being repurposed for money muling. Wow. Criminals know that a brand new account instantly trying to move $10,000 is going to trigger an alert. So they don't always create new accounts. They use accounts that have existed for years.
I was thinking about this like imagine a longtime regular patron at a local bar.
Okay.
He has been coming in every Thursday for 5 years. He orders the same beer, sits at the same table, pays with the same card. To the bouncer at the front door, this guy is fully vetted. He is safe.
He's a known quantity.
Exactly. But suddenly, one Thursday, he is sitting at his usual table, quietly accepting thick envelopes from strangers he has never even spoken to,
Right.
and then silently passing those envelopes out the back window to someone waiting in the alley.
Oh, I love this analogy.
But he is still drinking his usual beer. He isn't throwing drinks or causing a scene. He is weaponizing his own normalcy to hide in plain sight. The bouncer at the door already let him in. So the security cameras and the bartender have to be the ones to spot that really subtle, out-of-character behavior.
That captures the dynamic perfectly. We call it a sleeper agent account. It bypasses all initial onboarding defenses.
Sleeper agent. That's a great term for it.
A customer might have used an account legitimately for 5 years to receive a payroll deposit and buy groceries, but then say they lose their job or they get recruited by a romance scammer.
And suddenly it wakes up.
Suddenly, that dormant infrastructure is activated for criminal purposes. Because of this, treating money mule risk solely as an onboarding issue is essentially leaving the back door wide open.
So what does the FCA suggest they do?
The FCA demands that institutions treat this as a life cycle issue. It requires continuous, dynamic, algorithmic monitoring of the account for its entire lifespan.
And the sources actually provide a very specific list of what that out-of-character behavior looks like in the data. What are the specific life cycle indicators that banks are legally required to monitor now?
Well, the algorithms are hunting for very specific typologies. For instance, they monitor for rapid pass-through behavior,
Which is what, exactly?
meaning money comes into the account and bounces right back out within hours or minutes. They look for incoming credits immediately followed by onward transfers.
Okay, that makes sense based on the speed we talked about.
Right. They also flag the repeated receipt of funds from completely unrelated parties. If your account history shows you only ever received money from your employer, and suddenly you receive 6 deposits from 6 different names you have never interacted with, the system alerts.
The sources also mention something called concentrated counterparties. What does that look like in practice?
That is a major red flag. So normally retail spending is dispersed, right? You pay 50 different merchants a month for coffee, rent, groceries, gas.
Sure.
Concentrated counterparties mean the account is suddenly sending 90 or 100% of its outgoing funds to one specific high-risk destination.
Oh, like routing every single incoming deposit directly to a single offshore crypto wallet.
Exactly. They also look for unusual, large cash withdrawals that just don't match the historical usage of the account.
I mean, the computing power required to run that kind of continuous lifecycle monitoring on millions of retail accounts simultaneously, it must be astronomical.
It is highly resource intensive, but FCA findings underscore that firms must implement proportionate but effective management of this life cycle risk.
Because if they don't.
If a firm only looks at an isolated transaction or only investigates a customer when they first sign up, they will completely miss the wider laundering network operating right under their noses. They have to establish the baseline behavior of every single account and instantly flag when that behavior deviates into the established patterns of a mule scheme.
So we have established who is holding these accounts, the terrifying speed at which the funds move, and the really intense, continuous monitoring required to spot a sleeper account waking up. But what happens when the algorithm actually catches one? We really need to look at the real-world consequences, both for the individual acting as the mule and for the broader financial ecosystem, because the fallout is devastating.
It is absolute financial destruction for the individual, and this is really why the educational component of this fight is so vital.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
If you look at the warnings published by police in Ireland, the Garda, they lay out exactly what happens to someone caught acting as a money mule. First, the account used for the crime is immediately frozen and closed.
Which is bad enough.
But it doesn't stop there. Their name is added to shared fraud databases. This means they will likely face immense, potentially insurmountable difficulty accessing any banking services anywhere in the future.
They basically become completely unbanked.
Yes, and think about what it means to be unbanked in the modern digital economy.
You can't do anything. You cannot receive a legitimate paycheck via direct deposit. You cannot get a mortgage or a car loan. You often cannot even sign up for a basic cell phone contract or get an apartment because all of those require a verified bank account and a clean financial history.
Exactly. And on top of that systemic blacklisting, they face a full criminal investigation. Europol heavily stresses in their public campaigns that acting as a mule, even if you thought you were just helping a friend online, carries profound legal consequences.
Including significant prison time.
Yes.
I feel like a lot of those unwitting recruits probably think, well, this goes sideways, the bank will just reverse the charge and send a warning letter.
They vastly underestimate the gravity of the machinery they are participating in. They do not realize they are the final, crucial link in a chain of organized crime that funds human trafficking, drug cartels, and massive cyber extortion rings.
It's so much bigger than just a quick transfer.
It is. And addressing a problem of this magnitude requires a coordinated, systemic response. The UK's Money Mule Action Plan actually mandates cross-sector collaboration.
So meaning not just the banks.
Exactly. It explicitly states that this is not just a problem for the banks to solve in isolation. It requires financial institutions, law enforcement, regulators, technology platforms, and educational bodies to all share data and coordinate action.
Okay, so what does this all mean for you, the listener? Because looking at the sheer scale of this, I mean, networks spanning multiple banks, global payment providers, tech platforms, and international jurisdictions, it feels incredibly overwhelming.
This is a massive web.
Right. If law enforcement or a bank freezes one financially stressed college student's account, does that actually disrupt the criminal infrastructure?
Yeah.
Or is the entire sector just playing a massive, unwinnable game of whack-a-mole? Like, they hit one account and the syndicate just activates 3 more sleeper agents.
If an institution operates in a silo, it is absolutely just a game of whack-a-mole.
Really?
Yes, if a bank just stops a single suspicious payment or closes one individual student's account without looking any further upstream or downstream, they have achieved almost nothing. They stopped that one specific transfer, yes. But the syndicate's recruitment pipeline is still wide open, and the destination accounts are still active. The criminal network simply shifts the flow of funds to the next compromised account on their list.
So how do you actually break the network then?
The only way to break the whack-a-mole dynamic is through integrated, intelligence-led frameworks. The strongest controls have to connect inbound fraud intelligence with behavioral account monitoring and cross-sector data sharing.
Give us an example of how that works in practice.
Okay, it works like this. Bank A detects the Mule account.
Right.
Instead of just quietly closing it, they securely share the specific behavioral typologies and routing data with Bank B, where the funds were headed.
Okay, so Bank B is warned.
Yes. And simultaneously, they share the recruitment data with the social media platform where the fake job was originally posted, allowing the platform to block the IP addresses of the recruiters.
Oh, that's smart.
And then law enforcement uses all of that combined data to trace the ultimate destination of the consolidated funds. A firm that looks only at its own narrow account activity will only ever see fragments of the pattern.
They need the entire ecosystem to see the whole web. It really requires an ecosystem solution to dismantle an ecosystem threat.
Exactly. It is about moving from isolated, reactive account closures to coordinated network-level disruption.
Okay, let's take a breath and synthesize the critical takeaways from all the sources we have unpacked in this deep dive.
Sounds good.
First, money mules are not a byproduct of financial crime. They are the required infrastructure that allows cybercriminals to cash out.
Absolutely.
Second, the people holding these accounts are very rarely hardened criminals. They're often vulnerable, financially stressed, or completely unaware individuals who are manipulated by highly patient, sophisticated recruitment tactics.
Right. The human element is huge here.
Third, the velocity of digital transactions, with stolen funds disappearing across borders in under 24 hours, makes traditional detection incredibly difficult.
Which forces the banks to adapt.
Exactly. Forcing banks to rely on dynamic life cycle monitoring to catch sudden behavioral shifts in mature accounts. And finally, solving this problem requires breaking out of institutional silos and demanding real-time, cross-sector intelligence sharing to see the entire criminal web.
And for you listening, the most practical, immediate takeaway is radical vigilance, because the recruitment tactics are explicitly designed to look like everyday, mundane opportunities.
Yeah, you really have to stay vigilant for yourself and the people you care about. If you see an email offering easy money for a remote job with no real interview, or, if an online romance suddenly needs you to receive and forward a financial transfer.
Huge red flags.
Remember the mechanics we just talked about.
Okay.
You are not just doing a quick favor. You are providing the exact infrastructure a global crime syndicate needs to launder stolen money.
We spent this whole deep dive exploring how the incredible speed of modern digital transfers makes money muling so dangerous and so difficult to stop. It raises an important question for you to mull over. In our relentless consumer demand for instant, friction-free payments, where we expect to be able to send thousands of dollars across the globe with a single tap on a glass screen, have we inadvertently engineered the perfect high-speed playground for organized financial crime?
Oh, that is a heavy thought to leave on, but an incredibly necessary one. We demand the speed, but the speed is the exact mechanism the syndicates weaponize against us.
Something to think about.
Definitely. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We really hope it gave you a completely new perspective on the invisible machinery moving illicit money around the world, and we will catch you on the next one.
Keep your account safe, and remember, if an opportunity seems too good to be true, it almost certainly is.